This video is on solving quadratic equations. This chapter gives us 4 methods in which we will be able to solve quadratic equations. The first one is the zero factor property, second one is square root property, third is completing square, and then fourth is the quadratic formula. When we go to solve our quadratic equations, we should get 2 solutions, even if one is repeated. So, we may get a solution of x equal to 5 twice. Either way, we should get 2 solutions. So looking at the first method, zero factor property says if a times b is equal to 0, then a is equal to 0, b is equal to 0, or both. And this method uses factoring. So make sure you're cool with factoring. Make sure you are comfortable with the factoring processes. If not, let me know so I can help you out with that outside of this video. So basically, our factoring will set us up for this type of scenario: x plus 2 times x plus 5 equals 0. Once we have factored completely, we can set each factored piece or each factorization, each factor equal to 0. X plus 2 is equal to 0. X plus 5 is equal to 0. Then we would just solve accordingly as if we had linear equations. Subtracting 2 from both sides, subtracting 5 from both sides. X is equal to -2 and x is equal to -5. So these are the 2 values that I can plug into this equation to create a true statement. All right, so here, 4x squared minus 2x equals 0. So the first thing I would do is go ahead and factor out 2x. That's my greatest factor, common factor from the 2 terms. Factor out 2x, that leaves me with 2x minus 1 in my parentheses. Now that I factored completely, I can set 2x equal to 0 and 2x minus 1 equal to 0 separately. In the first one, divide by 2 to get x by itself gives me x equal to 0. In the next one, we'll add 1 to both sides, then divide by 2, giving me a solution of x equal to 1 over 2. So my two solutions, x equal to 0, x equal to 1 over 2. Also take note that our greatest degree of the degree of our equation is 2. In other words, the greatest exponent on our variable is 2, and we have 2 solutions. So if you go back to your linear equation, we only had 1 solution. The greatest degree on our exponents was 1. So here, once again, we have a quadratic equation. This is called the zero factor property. So recognize 0 has to appear somewhere in order for you to be able to apply that property. So we want to set one side equal to 0 before we look to go ahead and use the zero factor property in this case. So we'll minus 4 from both sides. Once again, it's the zero factor property. So set one side equal to 0 before you go to factoring. So that'll give us 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. We couldn't combine any like terms. So this is what we left with. Now factoring this trinomial, 2x minus 1 and x plus 4 is the result. Once again, if you have a problem with factoring trinomials, this is not the section that focuses on that. Make sure you get with me so that I can either create a video for you or talk you through the factoring process. Once you factor completely, you set each part equal to 0. 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. X plus 4 is equal to 0. Then solve your equations. That will be x equal to 1 over 2 and x equal to -4 as your solutions. One more like that, we have 49x squared minus 25 equal to 0. Here we have a difference of squares. Whenever you have 2 perfect square terms being subtracted from each other, that's called a difference of squares. And what we would do then is apply the formula in which that will give us 7x plus 5 times 7x minus 5. If I were to multiply these back out, that would give me the 49x squared minus 25. Once again, if you have problems with that, email me so we can walk through that process. But once you've completed your factorization, 7x minus 5 equals 0, 7x minus, plus 5 equals 0. Solve accordingly. That will give you the solution of x equal to -5 over 7 and x equal to 5 over 7. Next method, the square root property, says that if I were to take the square root of both sides in order to solve for my equation, on the side that the square does not cancel, I should have a plus and minus result. So in other words, if I have x squared equal to 25 and I want to solve for x, in other words, I want to know what values of x will make this a true statement. Or in other words, when is x squared equal to 25? So what I would do is look to get the square off of x. So I would do the opposite operation, which is the square root. But if I do the one side, I have to do the other. So I'm square rooting both sides. Take the square root of x squared, it leaves me with just x. But on the other side, where the square root does not cancel, I would have plus or minus square root of 25. And of course, the square root of 25 is 5. So the result of my solution would be x equal to plus or minus 5. And so why, how does that work, or why does that work out? That's because 5 squared is 25 and negative 5 squared is 25. And that's the premise behind using the square root property. So whenever you take the square root of both sides of your equation, plus or minus have to be involved in some form. So here I have 3x squared minus 15 equal to 0. Add 15 to both sides. That would be 3x squared equal to 15. Divide by 3. That would be x squared equal to 5. Now that I have my x squared isolated, or my squared part isolated, now I can take the square root of both sides, and that would be x equal to the square root of x equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. I cannot reduce the square root of 5, so we just leave that 5 under the radical. That's as simple as it gets. So once again, my solution is positive square root of 5 and negative square root of 5. Here we have 9x squared plus 25 equal to 0. Subtract 25 to both sides. That's 9x squared equal to negative 25. Divide by 9. X squared is equal to negative 25 over 9. Now, once again, we have the squared part being isolated. Take the square root of both sides. X is equal to plus or minus 5i over 3. Don't forget, whenever you take the square root of a negative, your imaginary part, the complex part, has to be used in your most simplest form, which is that I. Square root of negative 1 is I. All right, here we have a quantity that's being squared. So once again, you want to isolate the squared part. So the first thing we do is add 1 to both sides. So that'd be x minus 2 squared equal to 7 now. And now take the square root of both sides. The squared cancel on the left, leaving just x minus 2. On the right, plus or minus square root of 7. Now add 2 to both sides. And normally you put that term in front of the plus or minus, or that number in front of the plus or minus, which would give me 2 plus or minus square root of 7. If you had to separate it, that would be 2 plus square root of 7, 2 minus square root of 7. Once again, you leave the 7 under the radical because it cannot be reduced any further. Here we have x plus 8 squared minus 10 minus equal to negative 1. And add 10 to both sides. X plus 8 squared equal to 9. Take the square root of both sides. It's x plus 8 equals to plus or minus square root of 9, which is plus or minus 3. Now subtract 8 from both sides. That gives us x equal to negative 8 plus or minus 3. Now here we are expected to go further because we have an 8 and a 3 that can be added or subtracted from each other. So where before we had the square root over the 7, which prevented us from combining the 7 and the 2. Here we do not have that. So negative 8 plus 3 and negative 8 minus 3 is expected to be done, which gives me a negative 5 for my first solution and a negative 11 for my second solution. Third method, completing the square. Completing the square cannot be used unless you first, well, these steps cannot be implemented unless you first recognize the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Once again, you want to recognize what's in front of x squared, what's in front of x, and what's your constant, so that you can implement these steps accordingly and properly. So, looking at first step, if a is not equal to 1, then divide each term by a. Next, you're going to isolate the constant term to one side of the equation. Then we're going to take half of the b term, which is your linear term, or in other words, x term, square it, and then add the results to both sides. We're going to factor the perfect square trinomial that you created, then simplify the other side, solve by using the square root property, and then you can check the force. So let's look at implementing these steps. X squared minus 6x plus 4 equal to 0. First thing, we recognize that a is equal to 1. That's what's in front of x squared, so we do not have to do step 1. It's not necessary. Step 2, isolate your constant. The constant is a term that does not have anything to do with a variable, not connected to a variable. So in this case, it's just 4. So we subtract 4 from both sides. We isolate our constant, leaving us with x squared minus 6x equal to negative 4, which is now on one side by itself. Step 3, we want to take half of your b term. Half of your b term is well, our b term is -6. Half of that is -3. Then square it, that'll be 9. Then we're going to add that to both sides of our equation. So now we have x squared minus 6x plus 9 equal to -4 plus 9. Now we factor the left side, which is our perfect square trinomial. If you have problems with your factorization, always remember whatever half your b term is what goes in this parentheses with the x. So half of -6 was -3. So that's why we have x minus 3 squared. It's supposed to work that way. So if you ever have trouble with your factorization, whatever half your b term is what goes in the parentheses with your x. And then -4 plus 9 on the right is 5. Using the square root property, take the square root of both sides. That'll be x minus 3 on the left. On the right side, plus or minus square root of 5. Add 3 to both sides. Our final solution will be 3 plus or minus square root of 5. All right, let's do it again. We have 9x squared minus 6x minus 4 equal to 0. A is 9 this time. It's not equal to 1, so we have to divide each term by 9. That's supposed to cancel out and leave us with 1 in the front of our first term, which is what we need. And we have x squared minus 2x over 3 minus 4 over 9 equals 0. From there, we're going to isolate our constant. So we're going to add 4/9 to both sides. So that's x squared minus 2/3 x equal to 4/9. Next step, take half of your b term. B term in this case is -2/3. Take half of -2/3 and square it. So half of -2/3 is going to be -1/3. Our 2's can cancel, we lose -1/3. Then square that, which would be positive 1/9. Add that to both sides. So we have x squared minus 2/3 x plus 1/9 equal to 4/9 plus 1/9. So on the left side, don't forget, if you have trouble factoring this perfect square trinomial, that -1/3 will be what goes in the parentheses with your x. So that's why we have x minus 1/3 squared equal to 5/9. 4/9 plus 1/9 is 5/9. From there, we'll take the square root of both sides. Doing that will leave us with x minus 1/3 on the left. On the right, plus or minus square root of 5 over 9. We take the square root of each one of them individually. So that would be square root of 5 over 3. Add 1/3 to both sides. And that will give us a final answer of either 1/3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 3. Or we can combine them since they have the same denominator and be 1 plus or minus square root of 5 over 3. Okay, last method is the quadratic formula. Once again, we want to recognize that our quadratic equation needs to be in the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 in order to operate the steps further or move further in our steps. Here we have the formula of -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right. So we have x equal to -4 plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Excuse me on that. So finally, we have one of our final examples. We have 8x squared plus 2x minus 1 equal to 0. So our equation is solved for 0. We have have a 0 on one side of the equation, excuse me. So that means a is equal to 8, b is equal to 2, c is equal to -1. Plug them in accordingly. According to your formula, b is 2, so that should be -2 plus or minus square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 8 times -1 over 2 times 8. So we simplify, that's 2 squared, which is 4. -4 times 8 times -1 is 32. Under the radical, 4 plus 32 is 36. Now the square root of 36 is 6. We can combine all of these. Nothing is stopping us from adding 2 to 6. So we would go to the next step and simplify. -2 plus 6 over 16. That'll be 4 over 16, which is 1/4. Then -2 minus 6 over 16. That's -8 over 16, which is -1/2. Okay, final example. So here we have 3x squared minus 2x equal to -4. We recognize first that we do not have 0 on one side of our equation. We have not solved our equation for 0. So we add 4 to both sides. That would be 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 equal to 0. Now we know exactly what our a, b, and c variables are. A is 3, b is -2, C is 4. So we plug them in accordingly. That would be negative 2 plus or minus square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4 all over 2 times 3. Simplify. That negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 times 4 is 48. Subtract, that's 4 minus 48, which is negative 44. So we can write the simplification of that, which is 2I square root of 11. So you break that negative 44 down to negative 4 times 11. Square root of negative 4 is 2I, and we leave the 11 under the radical. So once we have that, we have 2 plus or minus 2I square root of 11 over 6. Then we can reduce that further, and we are expected to do so because that 6 can go in, there's a 3 that's in the 6, 2 that's in the 6, excuse me, that can reduce with a 2 in each term in the numerator. And you are expected to split it up because of the imaginary part. They want in standard form to be separated. So that's 2 over 6 plus or minus 2I squared 11 over 6. Reduce that, that would be 1/3 plus or minus I squared 11 over 3. And that will be your final two answers in the most simplified form. Let me know if you have any questions.